Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Disenchantment Episode 4. So that's right, we have another episode of Disenchantment today, after missing last week, which I really hate that we missed. But I'm excited to get back into it. I'm excited to see more of Bean, Elfo, and Lucy's misadventures. And yeah, this series just continues to impress. Yeah, we're only doing one episode today, though. We could have done two to catch up after missing last week, but I decided we're only going to do one. Mainly because, not even so much with time today, but mostly just because I just want to do one right now. It's just what I want to do. So we're doing one episode, and yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for today. Tomorrow we go back to Inuyashiki and stuff. But yeah, so we're just going to get into this as usual. I know nothing about what's to come. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts, and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, another great episode of Disenchantment. The king gets sick, goes away, Bean decides to throw a party, and Vikings come and try to take over. After finding out about the elixir of life. And Bean ends up saving the day, stopping everything, but she does kind of get caught in the end when her father finds the corpses in the chimney. This episode was kind of... these episodes are kind of episodic and kind of just, you know, a day in the misadventures of these characters. There's not a huge, like, ongoing plot to it. It's... the only ongoing thing, really, is that Bean wants to have this freedom to be herself. She wants to be able to experience the joys of life in an unhindered way. But because of her status and everything, and her father's name, she oftentimes has trouble with that. That's pretty much the only ongoing thing, at least as of now. We had some character and world building in this. Apparently Cercerio and Oddval, I think his name is, those two are apparently part of this secret orgy group, which is like, okay, you do you. You do you, but okay. And so when the king was gone, they convened for that. And I know the word convened might be a little fancy for an orgy, but still. They got together for that while Bean threw her party. And basically, the big thing was that she invited anyone and everyone who wanted to come, which is why the Vikings came. And originally they came to just enjoy the party and all. It was only honestly because of Elfo's jealousy that caused them to kill everyone in the party and take over. Because, as we see in this episode, Elfo has this thing for Bean. And I'm okay with this. I like the idea. I think it's a cute idea. I don't think they'll ever actually get together. But I have no issue with the idea of him liking her, and maybe even her possibly getting together with him when nothing else works out. Again, I don't think they'll ever, like, get together for good, though. I think if they do get together, it'll be like a short fling kind of thing. But yeah, the idea doesn't offend me or anything. I wouldn't go as far to say I ship it, but I'm not against it. Let's put it that way. And yeah, there's a lot to really process with the idea of that Chaz guy. Was he really a doctor? Was he an escaped lunatic? What's going on with that? It's not entirely clear in the end because it's like during the entire time that the king was in there, it's like Chaz was basically saying that he was an escaped insane person, that he had escaped the insane asylum, and he had somehow gotten to get the king there. But then it's like at the end, he kind of like, congratulations, you're cured, and it's like, was that actually just a ruse he was putting on? I'm not actually clear if that was just a ruse or not. If he's really just a doctor or whatnot. I honestly don't know. But he was creepy either way. Um, Not much happened in terms of Lucy in this one. He was definitely there, and he had some parts like kissing the shadow, lighting the lights, all of that jazz. But nothing about this like really focused too heavily on him. He was just being Lucy in this one. He was being the same as he mostly always is. Um, it was definitely more focused on Elfo and Bean, and the king, of course. Um, yeah, it's just it continues the ideas we already knew that this show was putting forth with these characters and everything. And while it doesn't do anything like really new or surprising or like super exciting, I thought it was still good. It was still entertaining. It was still funny. I still felt bad for Bean, which is like an ongoing thing. I adore her. She's adorable. She's funny. She's just insanely likable. And I felt bad when she was when she was unable to get anyone to just be with, except the possibility of Elfo, which was kind of ruined at every point. And all because nobody would dance, even just dance with her because of who she was. And that's sad. Like, I'm not saying like that somebody had to make out and fuck her or anything. But she was just, at that one point she was just looking for a dance. She just wanted someone to be there with her. I really do hope she finds someone. And if it is Elfo, cool. But if it's someone else, then also cool. I just, I really do want her to be happy in the end. And I'm sure there's going to be a second season. I know this first season's like, what was it, 10 episodes long? Something like that. Um, so there's probably going to be a second season. It's turned out to be pretty popular. I have heard some people don't like it. Some people are disappointed by it, or some people just kind of find it a letdown. Like they don't dislike it, but it's just it didn't live up to their expectations, I guess. Um, but I think it's popular enough to where it would warrant a second season. Um, from everything I've been hearing, at least. I'm excited though. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm really enjoying it. I love these characters. I love the stories. Yeah, it's the kind of adult cartoon that I wanted it to be. It's more like the Futurama or the Simpsons of adult cartoons, which makes sense because Matt Groening, rather than the Family Guys or Rick and Morty's or those kind of ones, which in my opinion are terrible. Which in my opinion represent the worst of adult cartoons. This is more what I want. It's definitely adult oriented. It definitely has adult jokes, adult focuses. It has blood. It has a lot of drinking. Possible like kind of nudity, which is what Futurama did as well. It's like it showed like it was like pushing it to as far as it could go. And with Netflix, honestly, it could push it further than it has been, but you never know. Um, Yeah, either way, it's just like, I feel like this is exactly what an adult cartoon should be. Definitely having that adult stuff, but not taking it too far to where it just feels like you're trying to force it. And it's not overly vulgar. I hate it when these adult cartoons, again, like Family Guy or Rick and Morty, are just stupidly overly vulgar, just for the sake of being so. Because that doesn't make you mature to have that kind of humor in your show. It doesn't make you witty. It doesn't make you funny. It's just annoying. It's annoying and stupid and unfunny. Vulgar humor is not funny. I never have understood, and I don't think I ever will, how people can be amused by that. Like there are some cases where a couple like more vulgar jokes can be humorous, but I'm talking like just overall. And it's just like I've watched multiple episodes of Rick and Morty. I've watched actually quite a lot of Family Guy for some strange reason. I've watched South Park, and none of those shows are funny. Honestly, a lot of the time they're just disgusting. And not like gross disgusting. Disgusting as in like, that's just wrong. And I mean, I know for a lot of cases that's what they're trying to do. But it's just like, that's not something you should try to do. Not to mention, a lot of those shows often end up promoting some horrible lessons that are extremely dangerous to the audience, especially those who take it too seriously, which people still do. And on top of that, they're extremely insulting. Like I know a lot of these shows, especially South Park, like go off this idea of like, oh, we insult everyone. We're not just gonna we're not gonna insult one kind of person. We're gonna insult everyone. Equal opportunity insulting. And it's like, I get what you're saying, but that doesn't make it right. You shouldn't be insulting people, especially when a lot of those people are gonna possibly watch your show. It doesn't make it right if you're saying just by saying like, oh, we do it to everyone. It's like, don't do it to anyone. Like, you can poke fun at people. Poking fun and insult and straight up insulting someone are two different things, though. Futurama pokes fun at a lot of things, but it never insults its viewers. This show, Disenchantment, it's poked fun at a lot of different things. A lot of different kinds of people. But it never straight up insults them. Shows like Family Guy. Shows like Rick and Morty. Those kind of shows, South Park especially, those don't come across as poking fun at someone. They come across as straight up insulting them. Like, with negative intent. And even if there is no real negative intent behind it, that doesn't matter. It still comes across that way. So I'm sorry, but those kind of shows, in my eyes, are terrible. Because of what they do, what they say, what they stand for, and what they allow in them. Plus, I just don't find them entertaining or funny. And I don't like the idea that, like, another thing I hate about stuff like that is, like, the main characters in those kind of shows are always made to be completely unlikable. And that's a problem. I don't think you should have main characters who are unlikable. Peter Griffin in Family Guy, Rick Sanchez or Morty in Rick and Morty. Completely unlikable. You just can't like them. There's nothing positive to say about them. And some people say, oh, Rick is not supposed to be likable. He's supposed to be like a warning. Like, you're not supposed to be like him. You're supposed to be better than him. And it's like, then don't make him your main character. Or, in Rick and Morty's case, I guess one of your main characters, because him and Morty. Morty's not even that better. Don't make your characters like that. And some people will say, like, oh, but you like Death Note. The main character of Death Note is a sociopathic murderer. A serial killer who thinks he's a god. And it's like, yes. But there's a difference. Light Yagami in Death Note is the villain of the series. He's the protagonist, the main character who the story follows, but he's still the villain. And they make that very clear. And they make it very clear who the good guys, the heroes of the story are. The likes of L, the Japanese police force, etc., etc. Light is the straight-up villain of the series. He's not meant to be even, like, any sort of semblance of right. The difference here is that Rick and Morty are the heroes of the story, basically. They're the characters you're supposed to like. In the way that the series and the episodes and stuff, again, I've seen I've seen a bunch of episodes of Rick and Morty. Not a lot of them, and definitely not most of them. But I've seen a bunch of the episodes, and yeah, they're clearly painting Rick and Morty as the characters you're supposed to like. The characters you're supposed to follow. Even if the fans say, oh, you're not supposed to like Rick, you're not supposed to agree with him, it's like, then tell the show to stop painting it that way. Tell the show to stop painting him as the hero of the story, as the character, as the protagonist. Because again, Light Yagami in Death Note, he was the protagonist of the series, but it didn't paint him that way. You always felt that he was the antagonist. You felt that he was the villain. Everything he did, you never felt like he was the main character. Well, okay, that's the wrong way of putting it. You never felt like he was the hero character, like he was the character you're supposed to be behind. Rick and Morty, like, yeah, it definitely makes you feel like you're supposed to be behind them. And it's reflected by the fans. The fans are always, like, quoting those characters. Always, like, admiring them. Saying how much they love them. And it's like, no, if you're not supposed to like those characters, then why are the fans talking like that? Why do the fans love the characters? And you can love bad guys, yes. I mean, I actually do really like Light Yagami as a villain. I love the Joker and Harley Quinn and DC Comics and stuff. You can definitely like a villain. But what I'm talking about, like with the fans of Rick and Morty, no, it's like they're on Rick and Morty's side. And yeah, that's where it gets to the point where it's wrong. And the same goes for Family Guy. I've heard plenty of Family Guy fans try to excuse Peter Griffin's behavior. Peter Griffin is one of the worst animated characters ever written. And excusing his behavior is borderline psychotic in my eyes. Like, his actions should honestly, if Peter Griffin was a real person, the actions he's taken, the things he's done, should land him, like, probably 6 at least life sentences in prison. With no chance of parole. He is one of the, again, if he was a real person, he would be one of the worst people to ever exist. And the show clearly paints him as the good guy, as the hero, as the person you're supposed to like, as the, oh, stupid but lovable dad trope. No, Homer Simpson is the stupid but lovable dad. Peter Griffin is a monstrous psychopath. The point I'm getting at with all of this, I know I've been ranting on about this for a while, but the point I'm getting at is that Disenchantment is what an adult cartoon should be. This show, it has the adult humor. Very much so. It has this episode had a fucking orgy in it. I mean, it didn't show it, but yeah, it did not shy away from the fact that that was happening, and it explained that it was happening. It's clearly a show made for adults. But guess what? It handles it in a more respectful way. The main characters, Bean, Elfo, and Lucy, are likable. You don't agree with everything they do, but you never see them as villains. You never see them as bad guys. Again, you see Bean as someone who just wants the freedom to be herself. She's a teenage girl who's just trying to live her life, and she's going to make mistakes and learn from them. But she just wants to live that life. You see Elfo as a naive elf who's in the real world for the first time. You could basically see it as an allegory for growing up. Going from that stage of innocence as a child and becoming a teenager and seeing what the world is really like. That it's not all sunshine and rainbows. That there's harsh, horrible, unfair things to this world. And then you have Lucy, the cynical demon who just wants to have fun at others' expenses. To drink grog from the skull of a baby. He's basically, literally, our inner demons. When he says that he's Bean's personal demon, you know what that means. That doesn't, I mean, yes, obviously, in terms of the show, he is a real demon who is basically assigned to Bean. But you can obviously tell that what that's really, trying to say. Lucy is our inner demons. The voices in our head that tells us to do all of these horrible, bad things. All of these things that are just not good ideas. And a lot of the times, like Bean, we're going to follow that advice. But then there's other times when we'll see that there's better choices to be made. This show takes these kind of characters, and instead of just making them as vulgar and disgusting and horrible as possible, it makes them allegories for real life that any of us can relate to, that any of us can connect with. That is why I love this show. Even Futurama didn't really do that. And I really enjoyed Futurama. I mean, not every episode, but yeah. The point I'm trying... Yeah, it's just this show... It shows that there's a lot more care, attention, and depth put into it. Unlike these other shows. And again, it's I know some of the stuff, even from episodes of Rick and Morty I haven't seen. I know that there's stuff that tries to make you feel bad for Rick and try to be on his side. And there's apparently, I guess, parts that try to make him out to care for his family more than he would seem on the surface level. I've heard of that kind of stuff from a lot of the fans who have defended it to me. And it's that idea is fine. But again, that only works if you handle it with care, if you try to really give that depth instead of just trying to throw that on to try and basically go against everything you've been setting up. Rick and Morty, they're set up to be terrible people. There's no redeeming factors, and then it's you just kind of throw that thing on just to go against that idea. And it feels like it's forced. It feels unrealistic to their characters. That'd be it's the same idea as someone defending a horrible dictator or a serial killer like John Wayne Gacy. It's sure, I'm sure they have some redeeming factors. I mean, Adolf Hitler was a great artist who was turned away from art school. He was also a brilliant tactician and had charisma to spare. Does that excuse anything he did? No. Yes, he had some positives to who he was, but his evil actions so far outweigh any positives that nothing good about him matters. John Wayne Gacy, the serial killer who dressed as a clown, did he have some good stuff to him? Oh yeah. Of course. That does not excuse his killings. That does not mean that he should not have suffered for his crimes. You're just because you have some good aspect to you doesn't mean you're a good person. And that's the problem with shows like Family Guy or Rick and Morty. They try to paint them as a good person who just does some bad things instead of a bad person who has a couple of positive aspects. I mean, Death Note did that well. Death Note definitely showed that Light Yagami had some positive aspects. Extremely smart. He had a definite level of empathy for people, which is why he started doing what he was doing in the first place. He had a very high sense of justice initially. And we did see, though, in Death Note, how all of that began to fade with time. How he became more obsessed with his actions as a self-proclaimed god and with killing criminals that at some points he was completely willing and able to kill innocent people just to achieve his goals. Innocent people who did nothing wrong. At least definitely not worth dying for. But it never painted him as a good guy, despite all of that. It always painted him as an absolute villain. But he had a couple of good aspects. But no, he was still an absolute villain. And that's the difference between these kinds of shows. Death Note is in the same realm as Disenchantment. It's definitely an adult-based show. I mean, even though it's anime instead of Western animation, it's still an adult-based cartoon, you could say. I know, anime's not cartoons, but just, you get the idea. But it handles its main character being negative, being a bad guy, being a villain, in a proper way. Family Guy and Rick and Morty, in my eyes, just does not do that. And again, just personally, I don't enjoy those shows. I find them completely unfunny and unenjoyable. Even just outside of the fact that, I think they're written terribly and the characters are done terribly and all of that. I just don't like them. But either way, I'm going to stop this rant now. I'm going to stop this rambling on. Because I could go on about this forever. But yeah. This show, Disenchantment, is proving to be one of the best adult cartoons. It's exactly what I want in this kind of media. And I can't wait to see more. So tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of Disenchantment. What did you think of Bean's struggle to just be herself and enjoy life? Especially in terms of finding someone just to even dance with. What do you think of Elfo and his newfound interest in Bean? And just where do you think this series is going? And if you've already seen episodes past this or the entire season, no spoilers, please. In the meantime, though, thank you once again for watching, and for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles, shed tears along the way, you're still standing, live, love, laugh.